Hey, what's up? My name is Severman. For today I decided to show you how I made my track Out of My Head. That was the first track I released this year. I dropped that in February, I think 7th of February. And yeah, I self-released it. But enough with the talking, let's get straight into the project file. Okay, also with this one, the making was actually pretty simple. Musically, but also like arrangement-wise, it's like pretty straightforward because it starts with the build-up and after 15 seconds it goes straight into the drop. So I think it makes sense to actually start with the drop this time. And let's check out the kick first. Like this is what the kick sounds solely. And then I layer like crashes, rides to it. I usually, or like most of my tracks use like this crash and this ride. Yeah, like let me show you like the rest of the drums with the kick drum together. Yeah, so that's already all about the drums. Let's check out the leads. For the leads I used 4 layers in this track. The first one comes from Spire, and the second one is from Silent One. The third one's from Nexus, and the last one is like a string preset from Nexus. These go all into channel 2, so channel 2 is my bus channel for the leads in this track. Here I have the EQ where I rolled off the lows and cut away the highs. Then we got another one where I reduced the highs a little bit. Then another high and low cut actually. Then a stereo enhancer, I just like this time made them a bit more centered so that they're like not too wide. And then again I have, as I always have on my lead bus channels, the P controller with the reverb to make sure the wet signal is ducking when the leads are playing. So it makes it a bit cleaner. Then we got the Fruity Lava filter for automation. So, for instance, I introduce the leads in the build-up or also in the break by opening up a low-pass filter, and that creates a nice transition, but I will show you that later. Then we got 2 kickstarts right here, which I use for a sidechain, obviously, in drop. And then, as pretty much always, the last effect is the Fruity Balance, which I use to automate my volumes. And then we got some chords right here. So these sound quite organic. I like to have organic sounds in my track because that makes it sound real, I don't know. So this first one is like an organ sound from this VST here. And then the second one is violin. They both go to channel 9. And on channel 9 I have this EQ, so again the low and high cut, as on almost every channel. The low pass filter, which I use to introduce those chords. And then the stereo enhancer, so I widened these up. Then the sidechain for the drop. Alright, then I got some more chords. So as you can see, I used 2 layers for these. The first one is a piano from True Pianos. And then the second layer is basically a saw preset from Silent One. They both go to channel 1, which was the lead bus channel, so they have the same effects as the leads. Okay, let's check out the bass line. Let me start with the sub bass. That's the sub. As you can see, I used the 3x oscillator 2 times. They're both basic sine waves, so if I open this up you can see it's just the sine wave. but the difference between these two is that the other one is basically an octave higher. So I'm covering like 2 octaves with those sine waves. And then with the mid bass it sounds like that. As you can tell, it's like a gated sort of bass line in this track. I like to use these a lot because I feel like they give a bit more energy. And also in this case, they sound quite guitarish, or it has like this guitarish character, I don't know. But let me show you the individual layers for the mid basses. So we got Spire again. Then another Spire. Sort of talkbox sound right here. Then super soft Nexus. And then I added this FL Slayer, which gives that sort of guitar-ish character to it. Let's check out the processing of the bass line. So I have my sub basses going into channel 4, and on channel 4 I'm having this gross beat, which I use to create that gated effect, then a fruity balance to increase the volume, an equalizer to high and low cut, and again a gross beat for the sidechain. And then the mid basses are going to channel 5, and on channel 5 I have this EQ where I boosted the highs, and the second one to low and high cut them. I got a stereo enhancer, which I used to widen them up slightly, and again the sidechain. What I did with both these channels, so with the sub basses and the mid bass, I layered them to channel 3. So channel 3 is practically the bus channel for the bass line. And on here I have this low pass filter again for automation, and then this filter for high pass filter automation. Then let's continue with the sounds. I haven't showed you this voice sound. So on this one I have an EQ where I reduced this frequency right here, because as you can see, like it's just like a sustained sound, and I felt like this frequency was a little bit too harsh, so I reduced that a little bit. Then I got this reverb here to kind of make it sound roomy and like far away. And then again we got the sidechain for the drop. Then I also have this marimba sort of sound, which I also tend to use in a lot of my tracks. It sounds like that. I feel like this marimba kind of sound and the voice sound, which I just showed you, help giving it a little bit of that emotion, which I like to have in my tracks. I already showed you the rest, except for like this vocal snippet, which I included in the drop. Get out my head. Get out my head. And yeah, that's pretty much it with the drop already. Yeah, after the drop we're going into the breakdown.
Cause we fight in the daylight, overnight we relied. Hide away from the sunlight, later on we'll relight.
So in the break I'm using these organic chord sounds, which I also already used in the drop, but as I showed you for the processing, I had that low pass filter on, which I'm using in the break now. So it's active right here, so we don't have like any higher frequencies or even like barely any mids. So if you listen to it, so as you can hear, it's slowly opening up throughout the break, and then at this point right here it's fully open. Yeah, but let's get back to the beginning of the break. I also added this like plucky sort of chord sound. This one comes from Spire. I used this preset right here. This one goes to channel 18. On here I have the EQ again for low and high cut, a stereo enhancer which I use to widen it up a little bit, and again a filter for automation. Then as you can see, I also automated the cutoff of the plug. So with that I added a little bit of variation and something like that. And it's also opening up like throughout the break even more, like as it comes to the end. Let me actually show you the vocal. Yeah, obviously the track is built around that vocal, and I got these from Splice, and solely it sounds like that.
'Cause we fight in the daylight, overnight we relied, we relied. You hold me close, tell me that and now, oh baby, get out my head.
So this one goes to channel 19. On here I have this vocal doubler plugin from Isotope Ozone, I think it is. This one gives a little bit more width to the vocal sound, and like it kind of makes it feel like there were several layers for it. So since I only had that like one file to work with, I used this one, and I feel like it fattens it up a little bit. And then I got this EQ, second EQ, low and high cut. Then the peak controller, and this time I used a delay with it, not a reverb. So the reason for the peak controller is the same still. So what I'm doing is I'm decreasing the wet signal whenever the vocal is playing. So if you take a look at the wet knob right here.
Get out my head.
So when the vocal is playing, it's being decreased, and then when it's not playing, it's getting louder, basically, the delay. And this way you can create a cleaner sound, I think, because if you like just leave the delay on like the full loudness as you want it makes it a bit harder to understand the vocal. And yeah, this way it's just a bit cleaner, I think. Then we got some compression right here, and the kickstart for automation on the drop, so it's not active in the break, and the fruity balance for volume automation. And as you can see, I do actually have a second layer for the vocals, but these are just clones from the actual vocal file. So what I did with these, I pitched them down by 1 octave, and this way gave it yet another layer to make them even fatter.
Hide away from the sunlight, later on we'll relight, relight.
So they're not very loud, but they still add a little bit to it, I think. Then after those 30 seconds, I'm having the leads again, like fully in there. It's kind of like that ravey hands up moment, or however you want to call that. And it sounds like that. So yeah, here I'm using the leads again as in the drop, just without the sidechain. And to kind of fade them in nicely, I created this like reversed sweep with the leads. Really kind of fades them in nicely. And then the chords, which are fully opened now. So as you can see again, here we got that automation with the low pass filter, and it's like fully open again. And then I also have got the bass line from the drop in the break, but this one is not fully opened. I mean, the low pass filter is not fully open. As you can see, it's just around like 80%. So there are some highs not in there. And as you can hear, actually with the bass line, I kept the sidechain active because I felt like it created a nice sort of flow and vibe. And then the rest is like effect sounds again. Except for these chords. And then we're going into the second build-up.
Get out my head.
Second build-up is basically the same as the first build-up. I know I haven't showed you the first build-up because that's now why I'm showing you the second one, because they're like almost identical. What I'm doing in the build-up, I'm closing down the low pass filter of the leads again. To fade them out and then have them like fully in again at the drop. And I'm doing basically the same with these organic chords. And with the bass I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm like opening up the low pass filter throughout the build up. I'm also like increasing the high pass filter, so I'm taking away the low frequencies of the bass line to also make the drop hit harder. And yeah, then the rest again is like these effect sounds. And yeah, the snares, of course. Then I also looped up the vocal in this build-up.
Get out my head, get out my head, get out my head, get out my head.
And it's dropping into the drop.
Get out my head.
So both drops in this track are pretty much identical. The only difference is at the second drop I'm using the claps from the start already. So as you can see, like here I have these cashmere drop claps which I'm using like right away when the drop hits. And like if you go back to the first one, I'm using the claps only like in the second half. So that's pretty much the only difference between those drops. Okay, if you liked it, make sure to give the video a like. Also subscribe if you haven't. Let me know in the comments which track you want me to explain in the future. In case you haven't checked out my remake of the Madison Sadcore remix of In My Head by Galantis, make sure to check that out. It's linked both. Hope you're having a great day. I will see you in the next video. Bye.